Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Final Fantasy X. So if you continue into Sin, because we've now finished absolutely everything, if you go back to Inside Sin and run through the city, escape, and follow the red arrow, you'll eventually come to this particular area. And this tower marks the beginning of the end. Once you enter this tower, there is no turning back. You are just fighting the end game bosses. And so basically, you enter this tower, and the whole minigame here is you're in this kind of dreamscape, and there are icicles that will shoot randomly up from the ground. And basically, you have to avoid those and collect these little crystallized gems that appear. And so you have to collect 10 of these in order to progress to the final battle with Jecht. So the more you collect, the more faster these icicles kind of appear. But basically, you get little items that are somewhat useful. But again, we've the celestial weapons. There's nothing else that we need, and so we've collected 9, and then once we collect the 10th, we are then taken away up into the final boss area of the game. And so this is where, if you'll remember in one of the very, very first episodes, we spam around this area. The ruined Blitzball Stadium. And here we have Jecht himself. So in this moment, it's your last time to be able to open the menu, change out equipment. And I switch to Kamari's Ultima spamming weapon to help with this fight.
You're late, Auron. I know. Hey.
Huh?
You got tall, but you're all bones. You eating right, boy? You've really grown.
Yeah, but you're still bigger.
Well, I am Sin, you know.
That's not funny.
Well, then, I mean, you know. Let's end this.
Dad,
Yeah.
I hate you.
I know. You know what you have to do.
Yeah.
I can't hear the hymn so well anymore. Pretty soon I'm gonna be Sin, completely. I'm glad you're here now. One thing though. When it starts, I won't be myself anymore. I won't be able to hold myself back. I'm sorry.
That's enough! Let's finish this, okay?
You're right. Well then, Let's go.
I promise this will be quick. Hit me with all you got, Dad.
So, with this amazing music, we start into the final battle. Braska's final Aeon, Jecht. So, we're just going to scan just to get an idea of what sort of information we can get from Jecht. But our stats are that powerful, it's going to be quite crazy. And what's interesting as well, his total health is less than what we can do in one hit. But what's super interesting, I'm going to be double casting Ultima. And what I didn't realize is, and we're going to show a scan later, but if we scan him after the 2 hits of Ultima, the Ultima did all of his health in this, as well as damage into his second form, which is fascinating to me. So here we are, double Ultima. Magic booster, magic plus 20%. And we've already beaten his first form. And with this, we've probably done enough to mortally wound his second form. And we go straight into phase 2 of Jecht. He basically pulls a massive sword out of his chest. That symbol we've been seeing every time we boot up Final Fantasy X. The Jecht symbol. But what's interesting is that if we go and we check scan again, he had 60,000 roughly with his first, and then he had 120,000, and he's down to, you know, mad how the 2 Ultimas side by side actually chipped into his second form's health as well, you know? But, you know, for storyline reasons, I figured we'd let Tidus get the overkill. And now hits into the hardest part. I'll just not talk for this little bit of a cutscene, but we now have to go fight all of our Aeons in order to defeat the parasite Yu Yevon. You can see him leaving Braska's Aeon there. But I'll see you back where we're going to be fighting the other Aeons.
cry. You're gonna cry. You always cry. See? You're crying.
I hate you, Dad.
Save it for later.
Right. We've got a job to do, don't we?
Good. That's right. You are my son, after all.
You know, for the first time, I'm glad to have you as my father.
Sir Jecht, I should...
No! Yuna! There's no time!
You stay away!
Yuna, you know what to do. The Aeons!
We Aeons.
Call them!
Call us! Yes. Here it comes!
Yuna!
So we have summoned Valfor. And now here she is, infected and possessed by Yu Yevon. Now, I'm going to be putting in an overlay because I was wanting to scan to show their little messages, but if you have a weapon with sensor, which I then didn't have, I was like super annoyed. But with sensor, you can get little parting words from each of the Aeons, so there should be an overlay reading what each of those are. But I wanted to also kind of beat the Aeons with the character that corresponds. So when Yuna gets her celestial weapon, Valifor is fully powered up. But what's also super interesting is the fact that because their stats are so high, their magic defense is just out of this world. So spells really aren't the way to go. And this is why the celestial weapons are so powerful, because they basically, when Yuna's going to attack here, the celestial weapons set the defense of a creature to 0 and then applies damage. So even though Valfor has probably max defense, same as max magic defense, it still does max damage. So with that, we just have to summon each of our friends. Because as we learned in the prior visit to Xanarkand, when we went to visit the first final Aeon, the Fayth of the final Aeon, once it's been possessed by Yu Yevon, is consumed and destroyed. So what we're basically doing, because obviously you enter all these temples, you pray to all these different Aeons to perpetrate the tradition, and then you created a brand new Aeon that was infected and destroyed by sin to make a new sin. But now we're basically saying, no, there's going to be no more Fayth in this world to summon. We're actually destroying the tradition of the pilgrimage itself. So with Yu Yevon possessing and destroying these initial Fayth, there's now no more Veilfurs. There's now no more Ifrits. So even if Donna wants to summon or draw from the power of that Fayth back in Besaid Temple or Kilika Temple, they can't. These Fayth are now destroyed totally, and their Aeons and the power to call those particular Aeons is destroyed. So this is basically a purging of the tradition of the Summoner Pilgrimage altogether. And once all of these Aeons are defeated, we will have nowhere for Yu Yevon to hide. So I used Waka to beat Ifrit, because when you power up Waka Celestial Weapon, Ifrit breaks the damage limit. And, you know, the same connection was with Ixion and Kimahri. So again, as you can see there, Kimahri, even though he has max strength and is critting, because it isn't a celestial weapon, he isn't getting the defense reduction to 0, which is why he's only doing 30,000 damage as opposed to 99,000 damage. But next up is Shiva, and we know a certain black mage who is connected with her. Interesting tidbit that when you look at the status screen, once Yuna has max stats, Shiva has max stats and everything. One of the only Aeons to actually get all max stats, in line with Yuna's max stats. Every other Aeon has some stat that isn't 255. But Shiva has 255 and everything, which is interesting, just not as high HP as the other Aeons. But we're going to just switch Lulu in here with her break HP limit and auto regen armor. And for a second, when Shiva flinched, I thought Shiva was going to dodge it, which I was just like, that's not possible. But it's like she flinched like she got hit before the damage actually came through. I thought that was a funny little animation moment there. And technically Riku doesn't have a connection, stat-wise, with any of the Aeons. Nor does Roxas, but I figured the Fayth of Bahamut was the first thing that took Roxas from Dreams Anarchand to the real world, so they're interconnected in some way. And then I also just figured, Maester Seymour and the Guado destroyed home in pursuit of Yuna, so or were the reason that they were overrun by fiends and they had to destroy home. So I gave Riku that honor to beat up Anima. But what's funny is that then when we had the Dark Maga Sisters, I was like, I'll just let Kimahri do his ultimate spam again. But yeah, that didn't go as perfectly as it did with the other Dark Maga Sisters, which I find crazy. But again, just once we attack them, it's grand. Magic just doesn't seem to be the way to go, really. And I love just the fact that you cut back to Yuna every time, and you're just seeing the pain and anguish on her face, And a little interesting tidbit I heard in I can't remember what video it was, but the fact that in this fight, it's the end game fight, and everybody has auto life applied on them. So they all have the auto life halos. And there were some fan theories saying that the reason for the auto life situation was the remnants of the Fayth's power to keep them alive so that they're able to destroy them. Doesn't quite explain why they still have auto life when they're fighting Yu Yevon, but ours is not to reason why. It just would be really bad to have everyone be lost and have to redo the Jecht fight again after getting through. Like, it is like such a boss rush if we weren't one-hitting all of them, in fairness. So next up is Yojimbo, and Orin and his celestial weapon is tied to Yojimbo. And is it just me, or did that animation look like the sword was upside down, or am I crazy? And for a second, when you look at this animation, like, the dog isn't there. So I was thinking, oh, are we not killing the ghost of the dog as well as and then, like, the dog appeared, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm blind. But again, I don't think he was there. But once again, overkill. Another Aeon down. And what I like about this as well is just the fact that these alternative, color schemes, they are the dark Aeons that we fought already. But the dark Aeons weren't in the original releases of Final Fantasy X. So they obviously just wants to give the game more challenges, which, by Jesus, the dark Aeons of Penance were challenging. And you needed max stats to get there. But I like the idea that they obviously had the alternate color skins from these final battles, and they just said, we're going to just make use these same assets and create super bosses from them, which I think is pretty amazing, in fairness. But I am 100% going to overlay each of the little goodbye sayings for each of the Aeons, because they are pretty heart-wrenching. So you should be seeing them on the screen there. But once we defeat all these Aeons, we then fight Yu Yevon. And Yu Yevon's a bit of a tricky customer because anytime you hit him, he will cast Curaga for quad 9. And so in theory, if you don't have break damage limit weapons, he seems undefeatable. But then you just play a bit smarter. Even if you don't, you can cast Reflect on him, so anytime he goes to heal himself, it's just bouncing off him. But obviously we have max stats and max strength, so we're going to just have Tita Splits Ace and completely obliterate the final boss. But yeah, it's super interesting that they have such high magic defense that Kamari wasn't able to one-shot them. And then I say to myself, listen, I'm going to do my best. We're going to try an AoE or an overdrive. The first overdrive we ever used in-game is going to be the last overdrive. And I managed to do it successfully, barely. And we get the 3 overkills. So we started off with an Orin overdrive, and then a Tidus overdrive. And we're going to end Yu Yevon with one final overdrive. And then, for the sake of just time, I know I just put up an hour-long penance fight, but after the fight with Yu Yevon, I'm gonna just end the episode here and then let the cutscenes and the post-credit scenes play out. But once we beat Yu Yevon, and then watch the end credit scene and the Eternal Calm scene, we completed the challenge. We have every achievement, and I can talk to you guys about that next time.
Everyone? This is the last time we fight together. Okay?
Huh?
What I'm trying to say is... after we beat Yu Yevon, I'll... disappear.
What are you talking about?
And just that look from Yuna of just... He lied. But he lied to save the world. And as he says, it's selfish. But this is his story. And with one Blitz Ace, he's gonna end it. See you next time, guys. Thank you.
I'm saying goodbye.
Not now.
I know it's selfish, but this is my story.